Hello and welcome to the Empowered, Sensitive and Creative podcast. My name is Rim. I'm an artist, a certified life coach and an NLP practitioner, and the creator of the Empowered, Sensitive and Creative retreats. Passionate about celebrating joy and beauty in the everyday, especially when things are falling apart, I'm insatiably curious about human nature, and I look into the world with reverence, awe, and a sense of wonder. Tune in for stories exploring healing through creativity, art, embracing sensitivity, and navigating the subconscious mind. I'll talk about the struggles that highly sensitive and creative people face, and share my experiences, insights, and favorite tools along the way. I'm here to empower you to turn what we often deem to be a curse into your biggest gift. I believe that the more we create together, the more we heal the world. So let's dive in. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Empowered, Sensitive and Creative podcast. I'm so happy and grateful for you tuning in. Hey everyone, today's episode is a bit different. It's something I've been holding in for several weeks. I think it's because it felt hard to talk about and I needed that simmering phase before I would share my thoughts about the topic. Basically, I've been thinking a lot about what it means to take our space in the world, especially when the world isn't built with us in mind. Something I think many highly sensitive people and creatives, artists, neurodivergent people who are different basically, think at some point that this world is not built with us in mind. So I've been pondering a lot about this. It all started with a discovery that I made this year, that I'm autistic and I have ADHD. By this point, it was not such a surprise because I've been thinking about this a lot. I think it's been 1 or 2 years that I heard on Julie Bielan's podcast. She has a podcast about... She used to have a podcast about high sensitive people. Now it's about mainly about the sensitive and autistic neurotype. She's a therapist and an HSP therapist, and she found out herself later in life that she's also autistic. And in her podcast, she talks a lot about the common traits between HSPs and autistic people. And what's the difference, especially in women. She mainly talks about women because it's a little bit different for women and men, apparently. Or at least it's like women mask much more than men, so it's more difficult to get the diagnosis, basically, for women. And anyway, she talked a lot about how herself, she didn't know about it, how she discovered that she was autistic, how then the more she talked about it on her podcast, the more she found out that a lot of her HSP clients are also autistic. And then after a while, I decided to do the diagnosis. I wanted to do the official diagnosis. I listened to a lot of podcasts on the topic. I read a lot of things as well. I did some online tests that gave me a pretty big idea that yes, I'm autistic. But I still wanted the official diagnosis because I felt it's more recognized, because it's validated by scientists, by psychiatrists, and officially in our society, it's still, unfortunately, but it's still the case that when you go and say, oh, I'm a highly sensitive person, a lot of people don't take you seriously. Well, it turns out that even if you say you're autistic, people don't take you seriously. But officially, legally, it is seen as a handicap. So it's like people should, by law, they're supposed to make adjustments and, they kind of have to make a little bit of effort to accommodate your needs. But if you're an HSP, just an HSP, well, if you, of course, some people are very nice and understanding and they will do their best to accommodate you, but I think a lot of people don't even know what that means. So anyway, this was a little bit, I'm getting a little bit sideways. I think I will do a later podcast about HSPness, being autistic, ADHD and all of that. But for now, what I wanted to talk about is how this revelation about myself made me even more aware of injustice and unfairness, and how some people can, well, how can some people and also some situations can make us feel so disempowered and so powerless and kind of invaded by others. And it's a very painful thing. I think it's very painful because it kind of kills all hope. And when there is no hope, life can become very dreadful, really. The thing that really started this inner conversation I've had with myself is an experience that I had in my improv class that was deeply disempowering, where I spoke my truth in earnest and I got totally shut down. And that was really disturbing. And it made me go so quiet. I think I kind of shut down. Like, they shut me down, and unfortunately my nervous system shut down, and my nervous system felt so unsafe there, not within me, of course, thankfully, but I felt quite unsafe with other people for a while. And I want to talk about that today, about, the fog that comes after these kind of moments when we fall silent, and how we can slowly start to clear it by speaking up and by taking little actions here and there, even when the words and the things we do are not perfect. And I'll also share a conversation I had with a client around that time, which was about business, creativity, and the trap of thinking we have to do things a certain way to belong. And I also want to make a point that I think we forget too often when we say the world isn't made for us. Maybe we forget that we are part of the world too. We are not separate. So this episode is really about reclaiming our voice, our space, and our creative power, bit by bit, in the small ways that still matter. So anyway, so to start the beginning of my story that inspired me this episode. So I found out I was autistic. And since the beginning of last year, so since September, I've joined, now that I'm back in France, I've joined an theater improv group. I've always loved improv since I've heard of it maybe 6-7 years ago. I used to be part of a group back in Shanghai, and then I could not find a group when I moved back to France. I was in the countryside, and I moved to Tunisia. There was nothing, and I thought, okay, I'll put it on hold for a few years. But of course, when I came back here in a big city, I was really happy. One of the first things I did is to look for some groups, and I found one that seemed really good, really open, inclusive. Like, I really liked what they were saying about improv and the way they see it, and how they're all about being kind and accepting of the differences and all of that. So I chose one group, and it was okay. It was not as amazing as I thought it would be, but it was okay. But some of the sessions, the teacher, it's not really a teacher, it's like an instructor, let's say, or a leader, a guide, an improv guide. She used to play music very loud to do some training, like some warm-up exercises. And I remember feeling really triggered by the music. Okay, first, I didn't like that choice of music. It's a kind of music that I found kind of vulgar and kind of offends my ears, and it also offends my my sense of integrity and my soul and my sense of being a human. I don't know if you can relate to this kind of feeling when you maybe watch something on TV or a show, a play or some music, and you find it really offensive, but not as in they're saying something offensive, but it's just like the sound or the colors or the sense of humor is like yucky. And it was really loud, at least to my sense, very loud. And then some of my classmates, they were laughing very loud and making lots of big gestures and dancing around. They were very excited, and really there's nothing wrong with that. They are allowed to have their expression and to be happy and to love that music. I mean, we all have different tastes. But for me, it was like a lot of stimuli. I felt really activated. I felt activated, and I felt my nervous system is getting dysregulated. But I didn't really, I thought, okay, fine, I'm going to calm down, I'm going to breathe. But I started to get really angry, and like I could not, almost as if I could not control myself. And it was not anger towards my classmates or towards the teacher. It was just anger. And I think this is a typical autistic thing, like the autistic meltdown, when your nervous system is overstimulated and you're just gonna crash. And it's like so many sensations, so many senses, so many emotions are rushing all together. It's like so anyway, I didn't say anything because I could not. I didn't know what I could say. I mean, they are allowed to do their thing. And thankfully, after 10 minutes, 15, no, I think it lasted about 20 minutes, then she changed the exercise. But I remember after that, the whole session was actually quite loud and overstimulating, really. So when I came back home, I was exhausted and I felt drained and I felt a lot of anxiety, and it took me several days to recover. But I didn't really realize why I feel like that, because I thought, come on, it was not that bad, like logically or rationally, it's not that bad. But when I found out that I was autistic, and I read a lot of things, and I heard some other autistic people speaking about similar experiences, then I understood that it was kind of autistic meltdown, and that it could have been worse, and that it was really stressful, and that maybe I don't have to accept this. Maybe I can ask the tutor, since it's a recognized handicap, to tell her that, maybe can you lower the music if I don't feel well? And I was very hesitant because I didn't want to, because personally I don't see myself as a handicapped person. Not that there is something wrong with being handicapped, but I never thought I was a handicapped person. It's a kind of invisible handicap, but it's true. In our world, in our society, being super sensitive to external stimuli, how do you pronounce this in English? I don't know. Anyway, it can be a handicap because we cannot function anymore. And so, and in our class, in our group, in our group, there is a guy who is in a wheelchair, and she always makes sure to accommodate his needs, which is totally normal. So I thought I will ask her, I will tell her, maybe if you don't mind, like I found out I'm autistic, if you don't mind, if I feel that I'm gonna have a little crisis, that I'm not gonna go well, that I'm not gonna feel well, maybe you can, if you don't mind, to lower the sound of the music or to turn off the music. And she was really rude. She totally shut me down. She told me that she doesn't really, okay, good. She's happy to know I'm autistic. Like, she's told me, like, thank you for confiding in me, but for me, it's not gonna change anything. That's how she said. I'm not gonna treat you any differently. And I felt like she doesn't hear me. I'm not asking you to treat me differently. I'm just trying to I just want to tell you that it's a handicap, that I cannot function when the music is so loud and everybody's laughing very loud and dancing and making big moves with their arms and their legs, like moving around. Plus she's shouting instructions. It's like too much. So I said, if you don't mind, it's I'm just asking you sometimes if I really feel like I'm not feeling well. It's not like every time. And she totally shut me down, basically. She said, no. She said, I have to think about the group. I cannot think about you. If you don't feel well, you can just go away and isolate yourself. And that was That was really horrible. I felt so invalidated and so discriminated against. I thought there is no point to go back to this group. And I had this intuition for a while that this was not the right teacher for me. Because as I say, I had anxiety after the group, after the class. Not every time, but I did quite often. But I thought, I wasn't sure that it was exactly because of that. So I thought, okay, let's see. Okay, she's not perfect, but nobody's perfect. So maybe she will improve, and she was improving a little bit until that moment. And then when she said that, I thought, okay, there's no point to discuss with her. Obviously she doesn't want to talk. She doesn't want to understand. She's being rude, she's being unprofessional, she's like the opposite of what an educator should be, especially in improv. And I felt like, okay, I'm gonna leave. And I decided to ask the organization leaders to tell them that I wanted to change the group. But then I thought, why should I leave quietly? Why should I leave the group not tell everyone what happened? And I thought, I don't want to tell them all the details because I'm not here to kind of wash my dirty laundry in our group. No, I want to respect everyone and myself included. But I still want them to know what happened and to know that apparently it's okay to cater to the need to someone in a wheelchair, but it's not okay to cater to someone who is going to have a breakdown because of the loud music. Which I think is very strange. And by the way, I don't think you should have a recognized handicap in order to be seen and valued and accommodated for. I mean, we can all have some issues. Everyone can have some things. Someday, maybe someone has a migraine. Okay, having a migraine is not a handicap, but it's very handicapping when it's really painful. So what? So the teacher is gonna blast the music anyway because even though the person has a migraine, so the person has to leave. That's her meaning of inclusion. I totally disagree. And also about what she said, I'm not gonna treat you any differently. I think this is total bullshit because equality means treating everyone according to their needs or to their limits. You cannot ask a dyslexic person to not be dyslexic. You cannot ask someone in a wheelchair to start dancing, like standing up and dancing. So you cannot ask a highly sensitive person and an autistic person to not be stimulated by loud sounds, for example, or bright lights. It's impossible. It's not something we decide. It's how we are. It's part of us. It's part of our brain. It's part of our body. It's not something we have choice over. So you can't treat everyone exactly the same way. But the same way, I mean, to me, treating people the same way means treating everyone with respect and accepting their differences. Oh, also another comparison that came to my mind that felt quite obvious, it's how for so long women were expected to be treated exactly like men at work, for example. Even though as women, we have our cycle. Every month, our hormones fluctuate a lot. Like, I'm not saying men don't have fluctuating hormones. Of course they do, but it's not the same at all as women. It's not as drastic. Especially women who have PMS. And you cannot expect a woman to be able to work and focus and have energy as much as, like, during her cycle, as much as on any other day. And it's not like for men, it's totally different. And I think this is really unfair and actually unequalitarian to pretend that this doesn't exist, that they don't have this issue or this natural thing. You know what I mean? It's totally bullshit. And the thing that she said, that teacher, that guide, that in improv coach or whatever she wants to be called, she said, oh, the fact that you're autistic is not going to change anything for me. It felt like disguised racism, or like, of course it's not going to change anything for her because she doesn't want to be bothered. For her, it's not gonna. She's not the one suffering from the loud noise, and she has no empathy whatsoever. To me, it felt like as if she had said, "Oh, I'm not racist. I have a black cook, or I have an Arab friend." These kind of things, which is really horrible. And so I found a text, an article actually about ableism and about invisible handicaps and how it's difficult um, to live with that in our society because nobody wants to accept it. And I thought I will share it in our improv group before leaving. And I just said, I just sent a message, because I think it's important for people to open their eyes. And improv is the philosophy of theater. Improv is really about learning to co-create, to work and co-create and communicate with different people, and accepting to let go of our ego and not being always in our mind, and accepting what the other brings and learning from it and creating something really nice with that. So I felt like her behavior was totally the opposite of this philosophy. And improv is like very vulnerable. It's a very vulnerable activity. It's not easy, you kind of, it's raw. You go in front of others whom you don't necessarily know, and you kind of have to trust yourself enough to say whatever comes to your mind and build with it and go with it and go with the flow. So it's really hard, but it's really great. I think it's a very great tool for self-expression, learning how to be vulnerable and be okay with it, to be safe, to be more creative, to learn as well to to think on the go, to learn to also, like, it's okay if you don't have planned everything that you need to say or that you need to do. You kind of trust yourself that it's going to be okay, that you can create something with it, that you can do something with it. So I think it's a very useful discipline, especially for highly sensitive people, especially for neurodivergent people who can struggle in social situation because of all the stimuli and all the emotions that rush through us, and sometimes we lose our voice. We just don't know what to say because we're overwhelmed, right? And I think the practice of improv really helps to build this muscle of going within, trusting your subconscious and going within, and learning how to speak up even when you're overwhelmed or even when it's not easy, and trust that it's going to be okay. But anyway, this is a digression. So in the group chat, I just shared that basically I had been dismissed and I was told I should go away and isolate myself if I don't feel well, that basically there would not be any accommodation for my special needs. And that therefore I decided to leave the group, that I enjoyed meeting them, getting to know them. And, if they want to get in touch, they can reach out to me. And also at the end, I shared that article about the ableism and the invisible handicap. And I said, here is, I think, I think improv is a way for us to grow as humans and to think about what inclusion means. So here is an article if you're interested to read. And there was such a backlash after that message. One girl really was on my side, and actually she received a lot of harassment from the teacher after that. But anyway, but most of the people ignored the situation totally, and the few who expressed themselves said that it was probably a misunderstanding and that they're sure the teacher means very well. And that's it. That was the end. I kind of discussed a little bit further about my views, philosophical views about what is improv, what is a group, what is society. Like how if you hurt someone of the group, you kind of hurt the whole group because then there is no cohesion. But I think it was kind of wasted. They didn't get it, or they didn't want to get it. But wait, let me rephrase that. It was not wasted, because even though people might not have responded to it, might not have understood it, I expressed myself, and I think that makes the whole difference. When you are in a situation where you cannot win, at least in appearance, and you are being dismissed, or you're being judged, or you are being discriminated, all of these things, horrible things, it's very painful, but you still have the power to express yourself and to speak up, even if people don't understand, even if they don't want to receive what you have to say. I think it's important to do it for ourselves. So that's what I wanted to do. I did it, and then I left the group. I was like, okay, that's I'm over. that's it. But it was really horrible, and I think I made a mini burnout after that, because I was so angry. I was really angry, and of course I was angry at the teacher, but I was still also angry at the other friends, well, so-called friends from the group, who chose not to say anything, not to do anything. And that made me think about this situation that mirrors larger issues of ableism, invisibility, compliance, injustice. And it's hard. Like, it brought a lot of emotions. And I think, I needed time to let these emotions come through and transmute until I can talk about this with more peace. But what was really crazy about this story is that even in spaces meant to be creative and inclusive, I felt like I had to shrink myself. That's insane. That story is not over, because I contacted the director of that group, and he said he was really sorry, and they actually offered me to co-write with them a chart of inclusivity, so that's a good thing. Only time will tell if it's actually going to happen. So let's see. But this story reminded me about something else, that like a conversation I had with a few clients actually, over the past few months. Creative, sensitive people, lovely souls, very respectful, very gentle, very kind, who have had difficult experiences in the past, who found solutions, and who want now to help others by creating their own business. So a bit like me. And so one client in particular struck me. She believed that she couldn't mix her creative writing with coaching, and she believed that she had to do business a certain way, marketing a certain way, and she felt very dissatisfied and overwhelmed, and I think she'd been trying for a long time, but it didn't work. She really thought she had to follow the right way to do business, even though it made her unhappy. And I could relate a lot. I used to have these beliefs as well when I first started my business, when I decided to become an artist and to do coaching, mentoring, and all of these things. It was a lot of struggle, inner struggle, really, for a while. And I talked about this with a lot of my peers who were doing similar things. And basically we all have a similar experience when we kind of have this brainwashing message that there is one way to do business, that there is one way to work, there is one way to find clients, that we need to hustle, that we need to push, that we need Instagram, for example. Or that if you want a mailing list, you need to do it this way, and and all of these things, and that you cannot focus on different topics at the same time, that you have to niche down, and all of these things that apparently we're supposed to do. And it can be really painful, because it's not necessarily authentic to who we are and to what we want. And that's not why we started our business in the first place. I mean, we started our business to feel good, to eliminate overwhelm and burnout from our lives, to reclaim our power, and to help others. And so often we are told that we should do it in a way that is different, that doesn't feel good, that doesn't feel empowering, that doesn't feel kind to our nervous system. that doesn't resonate with our values, that makes us feel overwhelmed and burnout. And yeah, I think that has a deep cost. And unfortunately, this messaging, this disempowering messages, I think it instillates fear in us, because we are worried that we if we don't conform to that norm, we will be cast away. A bit like what happened to me in my improv group. It's, of course, it's difficult. I think it's a journey, and it's an inner journey I think we must go through with ourselves, to go past that point of that fear of being different and doing things differently, and daring to do it our way, to find our way. So many of us believe we have to fit into someone else's mold to succeed. And yet, most likely, the people you admire the most are the misfits, those who break barriers, those who do things their own way. If you're anything like me, you admire more this kind of people than those who do exactly things following the rules, who are very like, be exactly how society tells us we should be and we should do. I don't think that's what you deeply love. That's not what resonates with you. So if those people we admire who are different, who are very authentic, and who manage to do things their own way, why not us? Why not you? What do they have that you don't? Do they have no fear? Do they have more self-belief, self-confidence, self-love, higher self-esteem? I think it's a mix of all, but I don't think they have no fear. I think they have fear, but they have the ability and the drive to keep going despite it all. When the pain is bigger than the fear, like the pain of the current situation, or the pain of feeling so disempowered, or the pain of feeling like we have no voice, or we have no choice, or we cannot do anything about it, or the pain that this world is so fucking unfair. And this brings me to this idea of world. When I got the official diagnosis of being autistic, I read a lot on forums and groups and things and social media, because I was really curious to find other people whom I can relate to, because it's kind of very strange to learn something about yourself, like something so important, because it's really important. It's like how my brain works. Learning this at 43, it's a little bit disturbing. Even though it makes total sense, like it in hindsight, when I see the past, I revisit the past, I'm like, oh, that makes sense, that makes sense. It's still really strange. So anyway, I was looking through a lot of people sharing their experiences and stuff, and something that was coming up all the time is the world isn't made for us, and we just have to wait until it is. And by the way, this is something I've heard and seen a lot as well amongst HSP forums and online literature. But this really struck me. Like, I used to read this and feel a little bit of a tingle of sadness or anger or bitterness, even frustration. But this time, I mean, I felt like, wow, it resonates so much with this conversation I had with my clients, with my situation that I experienced with this improv group. It's like, no, enough. I'm tired and sick of hearing that I'm not made for this world. And I'm tired of hearing people saying this. I mean, it's okay. It's okay to say it. It's totally valid to feel like that, of course. But is that really true? If we have to wait until the world is made for us, then this will lead to shrinking, not transformation. It's like settling, resigning for a small life. If you want a small life, fine, okay, fine, but it's your choice. But if you really want more and you crave for a better world, a better situation, a better life. That's really sad to think like this. The world isn't made for us. We just have to wait, and maybe it's not going to happen in our lifetime. And my question is, instead of waiting, what if we reclaimed our own space in the world? Because you know how it is. You can wait, but it's not going to happen, right? Because we know that things don't change fast and that human beings are kind of insane. And yes, there are a lot of mean humans and a lot of suffering and all of that. And come on, our species has been around for so many millions of years. And of course, there is some improvement, but there's still a lot of horrors. So yeah, I don't think the world is gonna change. It's not magic. It's not gonna change all of a sudden. Of course, this is true. But what can we do in the meantime? And in order to do that, I think it's super important to unpack the phrase, the world isn't made for us. My dog is saying hello. But when we say the world, what does it mean? Our society? Yes, society, human society is tough. The law of the jungle is still rampant in our society. But really, now I've been questioning that phrase. What even is the world? What does it mean? What if we are the world? The world isn't something outside of us. We're part of it. If we think of the world only as society, the systems, the rules, the institution, then yes, it often feels like we don't belong. But we tend to forget that we are also the world. We are on this earth. We breathe, we create, we feel, we notice things others miss. I mean, we are here, right? Alive. Maybe a test is to listen to your heart and see if you're alive or not. But if you can hear your heart, you're alive, so you're on earth, you're part of the world. I think we human beings have adopted a distorted view of what counts as the world. The other day, I shared in my stories on Instagram a reel from Arte, which is a French TV channel about culture, arts, and societal things, really. And they were talking about a documentary about the human species, and they were saying that why do human beings have decided that they are superior in this world? And then they said that there are more than 7 billion of humans on Earth, but human beings are not the most abundant species, not at all. Like, there are 3 times more chicken than men and women. Human beings, like humankind, doesn't weigh heavier than the ants put all together. They don't have the longest lifespan. They are not the strongest. So why do we think that humans are the owner of the earth, of this world? What about plants? What about the sea? What about all these microscopic creatures that we don't see at all? But there is so much life on Earth, and that is so much more powerful than us, mere humans. So what I mean, my point is, like, first, this notion of the world, we don't belong to the world, or the world is not made for us. I think it's not true. It's not accurate. It's our human society. Our society maybe is not built with different people in mind. Yes, this is true. But I think it's very harmful to keep saying the world is not made for us, because it makes us feel separate, it makes us feel alienated, it makes us feel totally dismissed. And actually it's bad for our nervous system, because this is a kind of evolution instinct for our species, is to belong in order to survive. So when we feel we don't belong, we feel threatened, and our nervous system cannot feel at peace in these situations. So I think it's really important and healthy for us as neurodivergent people to remind ourselves that we belong, we are part of the world, we live on this earth, and our lives matter just as much as anyone else's life, as much as any plant, any insect, any animal, anything, really, any living creature. And talking about society, yes, maybe this is also about perception. Maybe we've been taught to believe that the loudest, fastest, most productive humans define what the world is. But it's not true. They don't. And maybe reclaiming our place in the world starts by remembering we're not on the outside of it, we are it, we are the world. And we get to shape it on our own terms. The world is not something we have to wait for. And just by being ourselves, we shape it. Even if we're not politicians or CEOs, even if we move slowly, quietly, or differently, we still belong. And I think since the change we crave there for us, that's kind of our responsibility as well to do whatever we can for this change to happen. I know we cannot do it alone. I know that we cannot change everything and that it's a long way and it's a long, there are like, what I mean is like there are many steps and many layers. Like we are not in charge of the government, obviously, so there are things we cannot change, we cannot do. But what can we do at our own level? Because if more people like us, if more sensitive people, if more artists, creatives, neurodivergent people express themselves and express their needs and communicate about that, then the more people will understand what it means to be different. And little by little, people will be more tolerant and more understanding. And maybe not all of us, of course, have to speak up, and that's not what I mean. We can quietly, in our own way, make a change. For example, it could be choosing to not drink alcohol on Saturday night just because on Saturday night we're supposed to party. Okay, this is a bit funny to say, but I've met some people who told me like, oh, you're not going out on Saturday night, so you're gonna stay home, but Saturday night is meant to party and have fun and drink, you know. I was like, what? No, not necessarily, but maybe it can choose to quit Instagram if you hate it, or maybe it can choose to, I don't know, create your own soap line because you don't like what you find in the market, or maybe it can mean choosing to do your business, your creative business, the way that feels good to you without should. And it can also mean deciding to speak up against injustice and sharing an article with others. Of course, it doesn't mean that these other people will buy your special, healthy, vegan, eco-friendly soap, for example, or it doesn't mean that people will read the article you shared, but at least you have made that step. You have expressed it. You have done what you could. And I think that's important. Because, my dear friends, if we don't show up in our own little ways, in our own quirky ways, in our differences, if we don't validate our differences, our needs, then if we don't take space, basically, others will take it for us. Yeah, the law of the jungle. If we compare ourselves, like if we compare our human society to a garden, you know how parasitic plants can take over the garden if we don't tend to it. The loudest, pushiest types dominate space and energy. And well, with humans, that's like this, you know, if you look at a school, what we experience at school very often is the loudest kids who become the most popular. And then it becomes the same at work. The loudest get the promotion, the loudest get the project. And in politics, the loudest wins the debate, and blah, 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 and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. But if we don't want to be dominated by loud and pushy and disrespectful people and all of this, we need to take actions according to our values and use your voice even if it's quiet. Because little by little, quiet voice plus quiet voice plus quiet voice, gentleness here, gentleness there, gentleness here, gentleness there. It's taking space in the garden. And it's pushing away the space available for the parasitic plants. And then there is more space for lilies, poppies, roses, lilac. cactus, of course, we need all sorts of plants. For me, personally, reclaiming my power is choosing to not engage in a useless conversation with people who are quite toxic, manipulative, passive-aggressive, and who have shown and demonstrated that they do not want to respect me. So it's kind of a sterile conversation. So I choose to leave that. I chose to leave that environment as well. So saying goodbye and setting and respecting boundaries, speaking out, recording this podcast episode, continuing recording this podcast in my own way, in my own rhythm, even if I don't fit the rules of what is expected of me. And creating art my way, like following my voice, following my soul, following my inspiration, not trying to copy and see what others are doing. And by doing so, I hope I'm helping others do it their way. And I think if you also do it, if you also tap into your soft power, you will encourage those around you to be more of themselves and to stop shrinking themselves to fit broken systems. We all deserve to exist fully now. And remember, even small actions are resistance. If you feel too different or too sensitive, please remember that you have a rightful place in this world, on Earth, and that your voice and your quirks, they matter. If this episode resonated with you, I would love to hear some stories, maybe similar stories that happened to you, or hear your feedback via email or social media. I will put a link in the show notes. And also, if you would like support in navigating, reclaiming your voice, reclaiming your power, and coming back to your authentic self, I offer a variety of sessions for clients who crave a safe space to explore their unique needs and desires. So every session is tailored to you, to your own situation, and there is no cookie cutter method with me. Our journey together embraces grounded action and imaginative exploration, building a life that feels truly aligned. It's all about co-creating your transformation. I like to tap into different tools. If you listen to this podcast, you probably know I love astrology and human design. So if that speaks to you, we can also talk about this, like see your chart and see how some specific placements can help you. I also use NLP tools and subconscious reprogramming sometimes when it's needed. And otherwise, it's a lot of chatting and creative mentoring, tapping into my intuition, what I feel, what I can sense, and also helping you untangle your own intuition. Because often, when we are very sensitive, when we have a lot of emotions and we sense a lot of things, sometimes it's a bit difficult to distinguish our intuition from our emotions. So having a mirror, having someone who can witness what you're experiencing and can mirror it back to you can help you having more clarity. For new clients, I offer an introductory session where we explore your habits, practices, and choices that might spark lasting joy, and what are some that you can let go of. So that's about igniting your confidence to walk on your own path. And if you're curious about working with me, if you're curious to learn more about my sessions and how I can help and support you, I put the link as well in the show notes, the link to my website. So there you can read in your own time more information. And also, please feel free to reach out by email if you have any question. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I wish you a beautiful week and see you next time. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if it has inspired you, please share it around you. Also, if you feel called to it, please subscribe to the podcast and leave me a review. It really helps to spread the word out. All your questions are welcome. You can send them to me on Instagram at rim.creativenergy.com or email me via my website rim.creativenergy.com. And don't worry, I'll share in the show notes exactly where to find me. Until next time, sending you loving creative energy.